Good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the keynote. Welcome to the Scale Atlassian track. I'm Amy. I'm a product marketing manager here at Atlassian, and I'm going to be your EMC for the next 2 days for the Scale track, so you'll see me in the various rooms if you're an enterprise customer. Today we have two of our very own. We have Michael and Keshav here to talk about Atlassian offerings for the enterprise. Keshav server, and when he's not thinking about all things enterprise, he loves to scuba dive, he's obsessed with seals, and he has visited more countries than his age. We also have Michael here. He's the head of product for Enterprise Cloud. He was actually Atlassian's very first product manager, and he was part of developing the very first Atlassian SaaS offering. So please join me in welcoming Keshav and Michael to the stage.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back for my second US Summit here in San Jose. Now, it's been exactly a year since I joined Atlassian, and my family and I moved from Seattle, where we lived for 20 years, to Sydney, Australia. So it's quite a long trip, but we sometimes miss our Seattle friends, but I've had an absolute blast in Sydney. Before we get going, I just want to see a show of hands. How many of you have Jira or Atlassian in your job title? Okay, keep your hands up. And who in the audience is the go-to Confluence person in your organization? Wow. Big thank you to all of you. You are a huge part of why we're here today and what this session is all about. Now imagine a world where your Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, and other Atlassian applications are up 24/7. The system scales effortlessly as your deployment grows. You have one place that is your mission control for identity management and administration of all your Atlassian products. You trust that the security and privacy of your organization's users and content is ironclad. And you can choose where you deploy, whether that is in your own on-premise data center, private cloud, or in the Atlassian cloud. Now, if that world sounds appealing to you, you're in the right session. Now, at the opening keynote, you probably heard many of the new features coming to both server and cloud. In today's session, we're going to focus on Atlassian's offerings for enterprises. First, I'll cover data center, and then Michael will talk about enterprise cloud. So let's get started. Let's see another show of hands. How many of you have deployed or are in the midst of evaluating data center? Wow, okay. That's a lot more hands up since last year. That's pretty amazing. Okay, so for those still learning about data center, what is data center? Now, as Atlassian products have become mission critical to your organization, you told us to focus on 4 key areas: high availability, performance at scale, deployment flexibility, control. These have formed the pillars of our data center investments, and I'll refer back to them throughout the course of this session. Now, to deliver on those 4 pillars, the architectural foundation is clustering, so you can avoid the high cost of downtime from a single node failure, and to allow you to expand as deployments grow in your organization. Now, customers tell us all the time how clustering is supporting them in their growth. But what about inside Atlassian? Anyone recognize this? Oh, wow. Okay, Confluence 1.0. I saw a couple of hands go up. It's nice to see some long-time Atlassian users in this room. Now, it's no surprise that Atlassian ran the world's first instance of Confluence. That was 14 years ago. Now, when I joined Atlassian, I was just blown away by our internal usage of Confluence. We use it for everything, from project envisioning, to sharing status, to blogs, and more. Now, it took me some adjusting, but I've gotten used to the Confluence way of working. Start a page, invite others, get their ideas, and share my own opinions, hopefully good ones. Now, it's so much more productive than any other way that I've worked in my career. On any given day, over 90% of the company uses Confluence. So the rest, well, they're either on vacation or doing foundation work. And if Confluence goes down, work stops. 14 years ago, Atlassian only had a few employees. Today, Atlassian has over 2,000 people and growing. So when you look at the load on the system, it looks a bit like this. With peak load times during late afternoon here on the US West Coast, which coincides with early mornings or mornings in Sydney. To keep up with our growth, we moved to a 3-node clustered architecture. That allowed us to handle those peak loads, even when 200 users showed up overnight with Trello. Now, but what if a couple of those nodes went down for maintenance? Then we'd be down to just 1 node. So we went from 3 to 4 nodes recently, just a few months ago. Now, the process actually just took a few hours, and it's given us a much-needed breathing room. Our teams can attest that clustering in Confluence Data Center has been essential to ensuring Atlassians get the performance and reliability that they expect. If you want to learn more, check out Denise and Matt's session later this afternoon. They'll share many tricks on fine-tuning performance based on our own internal learnings. Now, at Summit last year, we had 4 data center products. Since then, we've added 2 more, Hipchat Data Center and Crowd Data Center. All our data center products take advantage of clustering to offer the benefits of high availability and scale. So what are the major focus areas for our data center products today? So you know there are some things in life that you just take for granted, like warmth in your house. Now bear with me with this analogy. I'm just coming out of winter in Australia. Just adjust the thermostat, right? Well, it's only when the furnace breaks down that we start to appreciate how critical it is to our daily lives. Now, in the same way, your users have come to rely on Atlassian products so much that they only notice it when it goes down. And even if it's a comfortable 70 degrees most of the time, those moments of downtime feel like 32 degrees to your users. So we understand how important it is to make sure that your users don't ever get left in the cold. That's why high availability is my team's #1 priority, and it's your feedback that drove us to release data center versions of Hipchat and Crowd. With Hipchat Data Center, clustering enables you to avoid that downtime. Now, we now support 10,000 concurrent users and 20,000 named users on a 3-node cluster with optimal performance. Now, Hipchat can extend further, but we wanted to be clear when we released Data Center about the limits that we've tested so you can better plan your own deployments. And we're going to continue working on scaling this out in the future as well. Now, coming soon, we'll also have updated apps across all the platforms with an experience that's customized for our Hipchat Data Center customers. That includes a modernized experience, a simplified login flow, and better tracking of messages, so it's clear what you missed while you're away. If you want to hear when we launch the beta of our new clients, stop by the Hipchat Data Center booth. Now, we're always looking for ways to improve overall stability, especially at scale. Take Confluence, for example. Did you know that every time you upload a file to Confluence, we actually create a thumbnail image and extract the content for search? Now, we've made generating those thumbnails and indexing content much more resilient. In order to validate, we ran some tests internally recently. Now, the experiment that we ran uploads a range of attachments, including some pretty large ones, over a finite period on a 3-node data center cluster. First, we ran the experiment on a version before the fixes, so Confluence 6.1. So you can see that the CPU on those nodes are just getting pegged. We also looked at the memory usage on those nodes. Now, running the exact same experiment with Confluence 6.3 that has the fixes, there was visible improvement in CPU load and an appreciable reduction in memory usage as well. And if you're wondering about those grainy screenshots, those are actually taken directly from our perf monitoring tools. It's just one example of the kind of fixes that we've been making across Confluence and Jira. Some other examples include recent improvements that we've made to Jira software, where we've enhanced our issue ranking algorithms to reduce the need for rebalancing. And another example is evolving our cache replication to be more intelligent by reducing CPU utilization for node-to-node communication. And in Confluence, clustering deals with network interruptions, and garbage collection much more effectively. Now, it may not be sexy to talk about some of these improvements, but we know how important stability is for you in your mission-critical environments. And when issues do come up in your deployment and you reach out to support, our engineering team jumps on high-priority requests above all other roadmap work. And we work closely with our support team to make sure our solutions stand up to our promise. Now let's talk about Zero Downtime Upgrades, or ZDU, for Jira Software. We announced support for ZDU with 7.4 for Jira Software to address planned downtime. So you can pick up that critical bug fix or deliver the latest enhancements in the product without taking down your cluster for maintenance or scheduling downtime. Now, continuing the momentum here, we've announced or introduced ZDU for Jira Service Desk as well. ZDU has been one of the most highly requested features from our enterprise customers. So if you haven't tried out ZDU yet, please give it a go. My team is eager to get your feedback. To recap, high availability is the foundation of data center and remains our top priority, whether it is to eliminate unplanned or planned downtime of your data center deployments. Now, the next key pillar of investment is performance at scale. Now, today, software teams are distributed all around the world, but cloning a sizable Git repo remotely can take hours. To address this, we introduced smart mirroring in Bitbucket Data Center. Customers using smart mirroring tell us they can't live without it. But we've made smart mirrors even smarter. These remote mirrors now support auth caching, meaning mirrors are less dependent on your central infrastructure or network. And mirrors now better support distributed build environments, so your remote build servers get triggered to pull the code and kick off the build exactly when the mirror is ready. And you no longer need to remember two URLs, one for fetching from the remote server and one for pushing to the primary server. We recently introduced push proxying, which combines both operations into a single URL. One less thing for your developers to worry about. Now, we continue to make Git better for every team and show we know best how to scale Git for the enterprise. There are many angles to scale, but one of the most important is publishing performance benchmarks. Now, Jira admins in the room, you probably know that we've been publishing scale and perf results for Jira Server for the last several releases. Now, we've traditionally run tests with 1 million issues and more recently with 2 million issues, but we're going to continue to scale that up. Also, in the past, we generally publish just mean times for various tests. But we know that's not sufficient for our larger deployments. If you have a deployment with, say, 10,000 users, even if only 1% of your users are affected by slower performance, that is still 100 people. That is why we're looking at different ways and approaches to give you the information you need. Most importantly, I'm excited to announce that with Jira 7.5, we're going to start publishing results for data center as well. Now, hot off the press, in a test run we literally ran last week, we looked at results for the 50th percentile, comparing data center versions of 7.2 to 7.5. Now, no big changes here, which is good because we've added a ton of new features in Jira 7.5 and the recent releases. Then we observed the results at the 99th percentile. Now here we saw some substantial improvements, a real testament to the performance work that the team has been making for our larger deployments. I expect to see our latest test results published on our website soon. Now, no two data center deployments are identical. When I talk to enterprise customers, they often ask, how can I simulate my own environment without impacting my production instance? To support your plans for growth, we introduced the performance testing framework. So you can model the data set from number of users, repos, or issues. You can also create different load profiles. For example, the number of concurrent page edits in Confluence, or the number of issues being created in Jira. And finally, the framework enables you to create the entire environment in AWS, or you can build out the whole environment on your own. The framework is already available for Bitbucket and Confluence, and I'm excited to announce that we'll be making it available for Jira software as well soon. Now, we use this performance testing framework internally as well. Let's take a look at Bitbucket. Here, we simulated a workload of 20,000 to 40,000 typical users and build agents during a busy period. So with one node, you'll notice that the number of tests executed per second tops off at a certain load. Each time we added a node, we achieved a new, higher level of performance before it started to plateau. And here, we tested up to 8 nodes. Now, double-clicking, we can also look at a breakdown of those tests. Now, if you look closely, you might ask, Keshav, why are some of the Git operations shrinking with increasing load? This is actually the result of a feature called adaptive throttling that we introduced into Bitbucket Data Center. Our load testing internally showed that Git operations can be CPU intensive, where under heavy load can cause the servers to thrash. So we introduced a feature to throttle Git. Now, the adaptive part is to allow that limit to vary based on the CPU utilization. And not every environment is the same, so you can configure the CPU target for throttling. To recap, we understand how important performance is to your users. In addition to bringing new capabilities, we continue to focus on providing clear performance guidance from our labs and give you the performance testing framework so you can run it in your own environment. Now, increasingly, we're seeing customers deploying our products on cloud infrastructure. So a quick show of hands. Who is currently hosting server or data center in the cloud? That's about 10, maybe even 20% of the room. As you probably know, last year, we announced official support for Amazon Web Services. We announced it first for Jira Software and Bitbucket Data Center, and then Jira Service Desk, and then Confluence. And most recently, we announced in July AWS Quick Starts for Hipchat Data Center. Now, over the last year, we've heard customers asking for support of another cloud platform. So we're happy to announce that we now officially support Microsoft Azure. We're starting with Jira Software Data Center, now live on the Azure Marketplace, and Confluence, which is currently in beta. So what does it mean for Atlassian to support data center on a cloud platform, such as AWS or Azure? It comes down to 3 things. First, we take advantage of native services in each of the cloud platforms. To support AWS, we took advantage of Elastic Load Balancing and Amazon RDS and EFS for database and file storage. Similarly, with Azure, we work closely with Microsoft to leverage their application gateway for load balancing, Azure VMs, and of course, Azure SQL and Azure File Storage. Second, we offer templates to get you up and running quickly. So with AWS, we offer quick starts with CloudFormation templates that launch, configure, and run the AWS compute, network storage, and other services necessary to deploy. And with Azure, we have resource manager templates that with a few clicks, you can have Jira Data Center up and running. Now, you will need to customize these templates to meet your corporate security and architecture needs. But the templates, they provide a great starting point for your production deployment. And third, we have documentation to help you get started. Now, over the past few months, we've collected and implemented feedback from a number of you to make our docs on AWS much clearer. So to recap, we're continuing our investments to support deployment flexibility so you can choose where you run your data center deployments. Now, having the ability to manage and control your deployments efficiently is essential for large organizations. Almost half our customers with data center today use Crowd, which is why we introduced Crowd Data Center to give you high availability. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Crowd, Crowd can integrate with your corporate directory to provide single sign-on so you can centrally manage user identity for all your Atlassian products. Now, one of my favorite capabilities of Crowd is that in addition to the groups that you get from your corporate directory, you can create groups internal to Crowd. We know that agile teams are constantly shifting around. So if you need to move users from one team to another, You can do that in crowd without having to reach out to central IT every time. And with the latest release of Crowd Data Center, I'm excited to announce native support for Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So if your company has moved your corporate directory to Azure AD or is using Office 365, you can simplify identity management of your Atlassian products with Crowd. Another important aspect that we've heard quite frequently is the ability to control your Jira data. Now, there are 3 common use cases that we hear. The first is moving projects. So maybe a department has set up a Jira server and find out that their organization has a data center instance. So the department wants to move their projects over to that instance. Second, customers have tens of Jira instances and they are looking to consolidate to a single data center instance. And the third, once you have a Jira data center instance in production with thousands of users, you want to be careful about making configuration changes that might disrupt your users. So you want to do that in a pre-production environment. For example, if you're testing a new Jira workflow, you want to do that in your staging environment before promoting it to production. Now, we determined that the fastest and most effective way to address these data portability challenges is by working with 2 of our partners who've built a ton of expertise over the past several years on these problems. So we've been working closely with Botron Software and Avnaba to enhance their solutions and provide clear guidance. In fact, we've just completed the last of the 3 articles. You can check them out at our documentation website. Now, to recap, we want to continue to give you more control of your deployments with product investments like Crowd, as well as with tools and guidance. Now, we know that you're investing in our products. So are we. You've seen the product momentum over the past few years. The investments in our data center products have led to consistent growth quarter over quarter ever since the launch of data center in 2015. And now looking ahead, we're continuing to invest in data center. So I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight a few key areas that we're exploring in the future. Starting with Confluence, we're exploring ways to reduce planned downtime, just as we did with ZDU for Jira Software. We know that viewing pages makes up more than 80% of usage for most customers. So we're exploring a read-only mode for Confluence Data Center to enable a more streamlined experience during upgrades and migrations. For Jira Software, one of the biggest areas of focus is performance. As you scale to millions of issues, we know that performance of certain operations like indexing are impacted. So we're exploring ways that we can make this better, from sharding to allowing you to remove some of the data from your system. By reducing the size of the database, it can significantly reduce the time for indexing and other key operations. And this could also open up scenarios like archiving in the future. Now, originally, Hipchat server shipped as an appliance, but enterprise customers are asking for an architecture that is more like our other products. So with Hipchat Data Center, we took the first step by externalizing the data stores. But we're not stopping there. We're going to continue to make Hipchat Data Center a fully installable application so you can more seamlessly integrate it with your corporate infrastructure. And while we've made Azure support available for Jira and Confluence is in beta, we're not stopping there either. We'll be rolling out Azure support across our data center products as we look forward. Now, the Bitbucket team, they've been exploring the best way to consolidate multiple Bitbucket servers into a single Bitbucket data center instance, while ensuring all your metadata, your users, and timestamps of your projects and repos are preserved. And for Crowd Data Center, we're investing in improved identity management and administration, from support for third-party auth like SAML, extending audit log functionality, and just overall admin usability. So if you have thoughts on any of these topics, please stop by the data center or one of the product booths and share your ideas with our team. To recap, we're committed to ensuring that our data center products deliver high availability, performance at scale, deployment flexibility, and control. This has driven all the investments that we've made to date and will continue to be the focus going forward. Now, at the end of the day, the most important question is, how are our customers doing with data center? So let's take a look at 2 customer stories. Now, the first one needs no introduction. the US Department of Defense, or the DoD. Now for the DoD, mission critical takes on a whole other meaning. And no, I can't get into any of their specific projects here. Now James Hunt, he leads the Atlassian applications for the DoD. Now who was at the summit last year? Quite a few of you. Well, James shared his story at the last summit. It's a remarkable journey to 60,000 users with just 5 admins. Well, we checked in with the DoD to see how things are going since then. Now, they've recently crossed a huge milestone. They are now over 100,000 users and growing. Now, this is across software and business teams and using Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, and other products to create a better experience for their entire organization. The DoD, they've set up a central team to prevent service outages and scale their service delivery. Ultimately, their need for high availability and their massive growth led them to data center. So how are things going for them? This quote captures it pretty well. Now, it's exciting to hear their success with Atlassian's data center products. Check out James's session from the last summit on our website. I'm sure there's something we can all learn from their experience. Now, the second example is a very different story with Mitchell International. The San Diego-based Mitchell provides solutions for 300 insurance companies and over 30,000 collision repair facilities across Americas and Europe. Now, Mitchell's journey with Atlassian started less than 2 years ago when one of their product leaders, Michaela Baca, started looking into it. When Michaela's team started a new project, they realized documentation was spread across SharePoint, Box, TikiWiki, and email. Michaela felt they could not continue with this and still be productive. And no, that's not actually Michaela's picture up there. So that's when a lead developer recommended trying Confluence. They started with a 10-user license and grew rapidly from there. Soon, they started getting a lot of requests from other business units. Michaela decided to take this to the rest of the company with a roadshow. What sold Mitchell was not only Confluence's features, but also because Data Center addressed their high availability and disaster recovery concerns, a prerequisite for scaling company-wide. And once they approved Data Center, they haven't looked back. Earlier this year, they deployed Confluence Data Center on AWS for hundreds of users in less than 2 months. Now, these and many other customer stories are truly inspiring for us. Some of our most successful customer stories come from a close partnership with Atlassian's related enterprise support and services. Now, we've invested in customer success by giving you a single point of contact as you're rolling out Data Center. And we're also listening to your feedback so that we can continually improve our service and best practice documentation. And our Premier Support offering has seen tremendous success since its launch. After adopting Premier Support, customers overall experienced 30% fewer downtime issues in their second year, because support engineers are not just responding to those critical issues, they're actually following up to make sure they occur less often in the future. And our TAM offering provides you a trusted advisor guiding strategic planning as well as implementation. Now, I'll admit, when I joined Atlassian, I assumed the TAMs were purely customer-facing. But I've come to appreciate what an amazing resource our internal TAM community is to my team to help us understand and our enterprise customer needs and also give us feedback into our product roadmap. Now, many customers are standardizing on Data Center as the foundation for how they run DevOps and Agile at scale in their organization. Based on your feedback, we've made it possible to order every Data Center product, as well as all dev tools and Atlassian add-ons, including Premier Support. So everything in this picture in a single subscription. So one line item and one bill. We call it the Atlassian Stack, making it easier for you to standardize on Atlassian. Now, if you're just starting to evaluate Data Center, we've made it easier than ever to download from our website or get up and running with Data Center quickly on AWS or Azure. And our enterprise services like Premier Support and TAMs, they play an integral role in supporting you in making your deployment successful. Our success with Data Center is only possible if you succeed in your mission-critical environments. and it's your success that ultimately drives our investments in data center today and into the future. So a really big thank you to all of you. And now, let's welcome Michael to the stage to talk about Enterprise Cloud.
Hi, everybody, and thank you. It's been amazing over the last few years to see the growth and momentum of our data center products. Definitely sets a high bar for us on the cloud side. I'm hoping that in a couple of years, I can be up here talking about our offerings for enterprise in the cloud with the same level of awesomeness and depth that Keshav just spoke to. So to flip his question, how many of you are using Atlassian cloud offerings? We got some work to do. So the enterprise cloud team at Atlassian is focused on making it easier for larger customers to move to cloud. Atlassian's approach historically with our cloud offerings has been to make it easy for smaller customers to onboard and grow with cloud. We've really optimized around that small to medium customer because A, that's what our platform could best accommodate, and B, the adoption curve for larger customers embracing SaaS in general has meant that our on-premise offerings continue to be a very attractive option for customers. So that's all the awesomeness you just saw Keshav spoke to. So our goal is that in the future, your choice to go between data center and cloud is based around your preference and not around cloud's capabilities or limitations. We now feel that we're in a position to really invest in making larger customers successful in the cloud, and so that's what I want to talk about with you a little bit today. So let's talk about 4 general areas around how the enterprise cloud team is approaching our cloud offerings. The first is a review of our core pillars. So these are our guiding principles for how we're going to build and invest in cloud. The second is a preview of our newest cloud offering for the enterprise. And the third is around our commitment to compliance and data privacy. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about where we're headed in the future. Our guiding principles for the enterprise cloud initiative are around trust, scale, control, and support. And I'll talk a little bit more about each of these. Consistently, the overwhelming concern for customers around moving to cloud is around trust. Can you trust that your data is secure, that your privacy is guaranteed, and that application performance will be dependable and so forth? So our mission as we develop our enterprise cloud offerings is to establish and maintain trust, and we'll do that by establishing a record of data privacy and security, by meeting industry standard compliance certifications, and by meeting and raising performance SLAs. You can go to Atlassian.com/trust and learn a lot more about how Atlassian in general is thinking about trust, but expect that this will be a primary pillar for our enterprise cloud offering for years to come. The next one's around scale. So over the last year, our infrastructure teams have undergone a pretty massive transformation in our underlying cloud platform, which we believe will give us a lot more flexibility in how we grow and scale our cloud offerings in the future. We've been working with our product and platform teams to increase the upper user limits for Jira and Confluence Cloud, both of which currently are capped at 2,000 users. And increasing these limits means not only ensuring that the platform can scale under load, but also in product testing and optimization to make sure that a ton of concurrent users doesn't bring down the application. So we've made a lot of progress here. I'm really hoping that we can announce increases to these upper limits very soon. Now, we can't talk about increasing the user limits for our cloud applications without also making it easier for our cloud administrators to manage those users. We know that managing a lot of users on teams manually is quite tedious, and so that's why we're really focused on giving org admins the tools that they need to provide a single view across their entire organization so that they can manage access and they can see who is doing what within their application. And a final theme which we will consistently address with all of our enterprise cloud offerings is around peace of mind that we will support you in your use of cloud. So that's with extended priority support offerings and increased coverage and escalation. And at the same time, we're working to establish consistent, dependable measures of service uptime and availability, as well as support response time to ensure peace of mind for our customers. So over time and in years to come, we expect to announce a number of offerings and services within this enterprise cloud umbrella. You heard Cameron speak about this morning in the keynote, the offering within this umbrella, which I'm super excited about, is Identity Manager. Identity Manager was built to streamline processes for your IT team, to boost security, and to provide a seamless sign-on experience for your end users. So it's focused on 4 areas: on organization level management of your user base, and provides SAML single sign-on, enforced two-step verification, password policies, and private cloud support. And I'll tell you a little bit more about each of these. So first off, the marquee feature of Identity Manager is around SAML support, which allows you to connect Atlassian cloud products directly to your identity provider and stop managing users manually. The ability to connect with an external user base has been one of the most requested features from our cloud customers for years. I think the original request for this dates back to around 2007, and I'm super excited to get this into the hands of customers. We've had it in beta for a few months now. The feedback has been fantastic, and can't wait until we have it in the hands of all of our customers. The next 2 features are both around security. The first is two-step authentication, which means you can ensure that anybody who's trying to access your cloud services are who they say they are. And the second is around password policies, which gives administrators the ability to specify password strength, expiry, and so forth. And lastly, cloud party support is included with Identity Manager. As I mentioned before, we believe a critical component of making enterprises successful in the cloud in the future is ensuring we have people available to help you whatever you need it. And that's why this offering includes 24/7 support with a 1-hour critical response. So at launch, we'll support Jira Cloud, Confluence Cloud, Stride, and soon Bitbucket. And our commitment is over time, we will support all of our cloud offerings with Identity Manager. So that's Identity Manager. To learn more, you can come visit us at the Identity Manager product booth, or you can go to the website and you can sign up there. Soon you'll be able to sign up for the early access program, try it out, see the features, and let us know what you think. I want to talk for a second about our commitment to compliance and data privacy, which you'll remember as being a key component of our trust pillar. There's a million different abbreviations and certifications and acronyms out there. The 3 that we're most focused on right now are these 3, which are SOC 2, Privacy Shield, and GDPR. SOC 2 has been our most requested certification for a while now. Our SOC 2 certification covers security, availability, and confidentiality. And I am excited to say that we now have SOC 2 certification for Jira Cloud, Confluence Cloud, and Bitbucket. That's Type 1 certification. We expect to have Type 2 very soon. Secondly, we've completed our Privacy Shield certification, and we are working now towards complying with the expectations of the European General Data Protection Regulation, which goes into effect next May. There's not a clear certification related to this. It's a law that goes into effect in Europe. Our intent is to comply with this via ISO 27018 certification, which covers most of what GDPR asks for. So you hear a lot more about us, from us over the coming years around certification and compliance, but it's a very important thing for us to get right. So a little bit about how we're thinking towards the future. What we've heard consistently from customers is they want the ability to manage and have control and visibility across their cloud services the same way that they would with their on-premise applications. And so our focus has been thinking about how we can give customers a level of control and visibility they need. And so the way that we're going to do this is focusing on extending the organization concept that we led with an Identity Manager to give you an ever-increasing and encompassing view across your entire organization, so sites, content, users, and everything. And to us, that means giving you things like consolidated audit logging, the ability to manage privacy and security at a team and user level, centralized billing, and so forth. So it's really the ability to have a view and control over your entire organization. So those are the things that we're going to be working on over the coming years. If you're looking to grow with Atlassian, you should know that you're not alone. We can help. We have teams dedicated to helping you adopt our enterprise offerings, both data center and cloud. So we have solution engineers who can help you understand how our products would work in your environment. We have enterprise advocates who can help you through the process of adopting Atlassian, from creating a business case through purchasing. And of course, our network of Atlassian solution partners who have helped more than half of our enterprise customers to date. If you have questions about what you've heard today, please don't leave someone without asking us. Whether you've already deployed or considering evaluating Data Center, please come by the Data Center booth in the Product Hub. Or if you're interested in learning more about the future of our enterprise cloud offerings, come by the Identity Manager booth, where myself or one of my team can talk to you about that. We'd be more than happy to have a detailed conversation with you about any of the things that Keshav and I have talked about today. So in conclusion, over the last several of years, many of you have told us about your needs for our applications, how mission critical they are, and how much your business depends on us. Much of what you've heard today is the result of your feedback. So a big thank you to all of you for working with us and helping us shape our data center offerings today, as well as how our enterprise cloud offerings will look in the future. So thanks, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you at the rest of the summit.